Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, graciously yours, objectively Dan. Glad to be hosting tonight. Was afraid I was not going to be able to host tonight, but here I am. This is Truth Wanted. This is the live call-in show where we talk to people about what they believe and why every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And every week I have a special guest. Of course, this week's special guest is Outcast X of the Utah Outcast. Outcast X, or X as we're just going to call you. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. I'm glad you're surviving on Ice Planet Hoth down there in Texas right now.
Yes. well, funny you mentioned that. Let's go into that.
Is your tauntaun still okay? I mean, did you have to slice it open? You thought they smelled bad on the inside? I mean, the outside, you know.
Yeah, it's been quite a tale. So I thought we should probably talk about that. Maybe it is February 19th, 2021. For future historians of the show, this is the week where Texas decided it just didn't want to have power this week at all. And so early Monday morning, and I get up pretty early for work, I already did not have any power. Of course, we were already told not to go into work because we knew that there was a winter storm coming. Again, we knew about this. I did not get power in my place until at least yesterday night. And my apartment here has not had any power since then. So the first day I was just kind of vibing and surviving here with me and Pico. We kind of knew that this was going to come, but I didn't expect to have not power for that long. First night, got down to like 9 degrees, and I just hunkered down, just got my mattress in the center of the room here to get it away from the windows, and I just survived the night. I wore like 4 layers of clothes. I slept with my boots on. I had Pico with me underneath the sheets, and we just kind of camped out for the night. Next day, still didn't get anything. Heard that we weren't going to get any power until at least Thursday, so I tried to get out from my apartment complex, go up the hills here, and I couldn't get my car over these hills because it was too much ice trying to escape. Eventually, I left later that day, but there were families outside, people with children at their propane grills out on the front porch of their apartments because it was warmer to do that than to be inside. Because like 40% of Austin did not have power for a good chunk of time this week. And a lot of places still don't have power as of the time of this. But I managed to get to Genetically Modified Skeptic's house. And actually, the plan was to record using his equipment. Unfortunately, because I'm really awesome, I accidentally broke Drew's mic while setting up for the show, which is great. So I paid for that. But also, the roads were a lot better today. So I came back to my place to record for today. So yes, that has been the story for me this week, and the awesome thing that is the state of Texas power grid. So that's been my life. It's been really cool.
Not only that, but your elected officials are just you guys are living.
What's wrong with our elected officials, X? You don't think they're doing a great job? You don't think this is really cool?
Utah's pretty bad with elected officials. We've got our own bullshit that we're going through right now. But you guys in Texas have a special breed of it, right? Especially right now with the one mayor that blamed the citizenry for being
I did see that. Well, so here's the thing. The thing that I've been seeing a lot this week has been, this is all a result of like the Green New Deal. And it's because all of our this is the problem of wind turbines, because they all get frozen up and we can't use them for power, which is all just BS. It's not true. It's not the reason why all this stuff has been happening. Yeah, there's been frozen wind turbines and stuff, but this intersects with this show. Because this is Truth Wanted, we want to know what the truth is. And the truth is the Texas power grid system is separate from the rest of the United States for a couple different reasons. People have different opinions as to why. But a lot of the state relies on natural gas, which we don't actually use as much as people think here in the state of Texas, or at least we don't produce as much. A lot of it comes from other places, but it's been kind of ridiculous. It's been making me mad because I'm a single guy here with my cat. I'll survive. I'm an Eagle Scout. I can do this if I needed to. But seeing children out here, out outside again in front of these grills because this is the warmest thing they can go to. That's a bit frustrating. And it's no secret that a lot of the places in Texas, specifically in Austin, the places that have had power have been on grids with like hospitals and stuff like that. And where I'm at is what's commonly considered to be a low income neighborhood. And we didn't get power for like most of the week. And so people have been kind of complaining about the differences and disparities there as well. So yeah, it's just been really fucked up week this week. And I'm not very happy about it. So yeah, welcome to the show. X.
Yeah, and I'm a transplant from being a military kid living out here in Utah. I moved here when I was 14, and we've had nights where it got down to like 0 degrees, -12 and stuff like that with wind chill. And we're at altitude. We're at like almost 4,000 feet where I live. And so it's never gotten to the point where we've lost power during the winter. And even if we did, we still have natural gas supplied to all the houses and everything. So a lot of our power ran through the ground, and so is the natural gas. So we don't have to worry. But I understand, because I lived in the South for a good chunk of my life, that the infrastructure just isn't there for like harsh winter conditions. I remember living in Louisiana and getting a little tiny sheet of ice just from like snow or snain that froze onto the road, and it shut everything down,
Yeah.
And then you start getting water mains that are busting, and just
Texas was just not prepared for this. And this is just going to get worse because, hey, climate change, that's a thing. And
let's hope that it changes some people's minds about what climate change is.
Oh, it's not, though.
It's not.
That's no.
I thought we were supposed to be in global warming right now.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's just going to keep being like this. And it's going to be great. It's going to be really cool. And this is our lives now. But anyway, that's Texas. That's a little Texas update for you guys. So really, really cool. Oh, by the way, this weekend, in case you missed it last week, but I am going to be on Atheist Experience on Sunday. So you guys should check that out. I'll remind you guys at the end of the show, but you guys should look at that as well. All things go, as long as the power doesn't go out again, we should be fine. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about what you got going on with the Utah Outcasts. X, what is the Utah Outcasts? What do you guys do?
Well, Utah Outcasts is a project that started off with me and my buddy, Kyle Steenblick, and we worked with each other for a while. We did multiple other shows with each other, different podcasts, mainly geek-related trivia kind of stuff, and we just had a good time doing that. But then we realized once that came to an end, we had an itch to do a podcast again. And so we're like, okay, well, we're consuming a lot more atheist content, and I didn't realize that there was actually a robust community of atheism out here in Utah. So it was just one of those things where I didn't.
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder what would be the impetus.
But it was really weird because I had the Christian understanding of what atheist was. Living here for the longest time, someone that hates God, it's just one of those things, or it was a bad pejorative term. Not realizing it just meant people that didn't have a belief in a God or gods, And so when I come to find out there was a Facebook group with like 3,000 members of people that lived here in the state that are all atheists and call themselves that, I'm like, holy crap, I found my people. So we started putting together some atheist content, and we dragged Felicia into the show with us. She just volunteered, and she's been with us ever since. We've been at it since 2015. So we're about to start our 7th year of doing the show. So it's been a really good time. Been at it for a really long time. Most people, we're terrible at promotion, so that's probably why most people have never watched the show. We have a variety of different beliefs that we have out there. Kyle and I are both members of the Satanic Temple, so we follow that line of reasoning and morality. I guess it's not really morality; it's just the 7 tenets really speak to us. Felicia is a pagan, and she's also an anarchist. So we get into some really, really interesting conversations on there with the panel, and we're very sex positive, very adult language oriented politics and religion show. It's a good time. And if you want to catch me just doing my solo stuff, I mainly am fighting against what is it? It's Christian hegemony that we have in this country, the Christian nationalism that we've got going on. So I tend to do a lot of crap talking on evangelicals from videos that I find on the internet, so I'm having fun doing that. I'm reading the Book of Mormon. I'm reading a Ken Ham book on my own channel. It's a good time, and if I don't have like 18 projects going on, I don't know what to do with my life, including the family and the real job. It's like I need to keep myself busy, otherwise depression hits.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's a pandemic.
If you're going to read Ken Ham books, I think that's going to do it to you too. I think that would be my first recommendation, is actually not to do that. But I mean, it's your life. You got to do what you got to do. I mean, yeah. And I guess you're all called outcasts because you feel like Christianity in particular has excluded you guys, or is it your political opinions as well?
It's political opinions because like the only sea of blue that we have in this state is Salt Lake City, which is really funny because that's where the headquarters for the LDS Church is.
Right.
But there's a couple of really awesome gay bars like right around the corner from this headquarters.
My first question I ever asked, because I knew like a few Mormons growing up, but I wasn't super close to it. I didn't actually get to know any Mormons in what that community was like until I became an atheist, actually, and met all the ex-Mormons. And one of the first things I asked a Mormon I knew from Utah was, so like in Salt Lake City, do they like have like Starbucks and stuff? Like, do they even have like coffee shops and places? Like, oh yeah, of course they got them everywhere, but it's just like
we do now. We had local coffee shops for a little while. Like, it's only really in Salt Lake. You had a couple, like maybe in Ogden. Ogden's an old railroad town. It's the closest that we have to actually being a multi-ethnic town that we have in this northern part of the state. Mm-hmm. And so they had coffee shops there, but we didn't have a Starbucks until the airport got one. And this was before 9/11. So my brother and I would go to the airport to go get a Starbucks, go through the terminals and everything, and then come back. And just, for crap to do because you were bored.
Worth it? Was it worth it? Okay.
Back then, it seemed like it was worth it. But now that it's ubiquitous, it's like, that was stupid. Why did I do that? Actually, I don't know if I've ever said this on the show. I don't drink coffee. I am not a coffee person at all. I think that surprises a lot of people because everybody drinks coffee. I guess I'm just I just never got into it. It was just never one of my things. But I'm a whole pot kind of guy nowadays.
Well, there is that, but it's just like, it's one of the things where everybody talks about like, oh, I need this to be my thing. And I guess I have more in commons with the Mormons that I might think, because it's never been a thing I've never really thought I've needed. I mean, I drink it, I guess, if it's given to me, but I don't know. Just
are you a tea drinker? Do you live in Texas, so you got to have sweet tea every once in a while?
I get energy drinks from my work, and so there is that. But even then, I don't even drink it that much. I don't know. It's probably just I'm just a naturally stimulant brain, I guess, that just doesn't drink coffee. It's just me.
I work late shift as it is. But for like the longest time, I worked grave shift. Mm-hmm. And there was no way to get past that witching hour of like 2:30, 3 o'clock to about 4:30, unless you were like actually chewing Jet Alert pills, which are like 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm just saying.
I had to be on hard stimulants, and I've tried giving it up a couple of times, and I know it's me being addicted to something, but the headaches, man, they suck when you're trying to give up caffeine. They're the worst.
Yeah, I hear that too. I've never really experienced that much of it. So there you go. That's me. That's a little fun fact. But anyway, I've been spending my week again with the genetically modified skeptic and doing fun stuff with him. But we've just been talking. We were talking to family and friends just about all the craziness, all the just politicizing of the recent events here with the storm and stuff. And it made me realize this is the world that we live in now, because of course the coronavirus stuff was going to be politicized. Of course, every breaking news thing, every tragedy is going to have some sort of political element to it now, whether it's going to be a shooting, whether it's going to be some sort of accident or whatever. Like, this is how it's going to be.
And that's what we decided on Utah Outcast, probably right around our first year of doing it. We said, holy crap, everything is politics. Literally everything is political. So, and that was also the same time that Trump was running for office. So that was a very developing time for a lot of people in this country, especially when you're making content. So
yeah. And I don't know. It's just it makes me kind of sad. It makes me sad that that's the world. But I guess that's why we try to talk on shows like this about truth being important and stuff like that, because I mean, this is a scary situation. I mean, information was really really important. I couldn't really access the internet too well because everybody was on the cell phone towers. I'm trying to figure out from my neighbors and friends, figure out where the nearest warming station was, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. How am I going to get out of here? And do I need to get a ride with somebody? What am I going to do about my cat? You know, like, thankfully I got groceries this past weekend. But if I hadn't done that, I would have been totally screwed. There would have been no way.
Where would you go? Because like literally a whole swath, 400 miles each direction, was getting caught up in that Gulf flow. So it was freezing.
Yeah, it was freezing, and like the information technology, I have to rely on it to live in this place. If I didn't have my phone, I would have been screwed, and that's going to be the case for a lot of different people. And so what we put on these devices, what we're reading every day, it's just more important than ever. So yeah, I guess I don't expect our situation to change anytime soon with how people are going to turn these issues into, I don't know, points for political agendas. It's very, very sad. Very, very sad.
If we didn't live in the, and I hate to call it this, but we live in the post-truth world thanks to the way that news has put a lot of stuff out there, that we have people's opinions being substituted for actual facts. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to, you know, either dunking on libs or dunking on Republicans or something like that, it's just like everybody seems to be doing it because it's gamified nowadays. Everybody gets a little bit of a dopamine rush whenever they get to dunk on somebody, as they like to say. And it's just one of those things where it's like, we do have objective truths in the world that we live in. You know, you can point to statistics and be like, this is a thing that happened, but there's always somebody that would come around and spin it. And I don't know how we can beat the spin is the problem, is that we've got too many people that are just coming up with their own post hoc rationalizations for the data that's given to them. You know, it's never anything. It's never going to it with an objective way of using the data. It's always, you know, how you feel about it. Instead,
just to point out, by the way, you know, it's not like if you were a Christian, you got to live your life any better this week than other people. You know, it depended on whether you were on a grid or not.
Yeah, like, he did a really good job of protecting you guys, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it seems like that didn't really play into, you know, your well-being this week.
I thought if two or more of you got together, you could move mountains and stuff, but you couldn't get the energy back to
yeah, we had to kind of wait on that. But
and the churches down there not letting people in too. That's a further nice thing that I saw too many stories of, you know.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. So did you see a lot of things about churches and stuff this week? Because I was even
primarily the one with Joel Osteen. Remember when the flooding was happening and he didn't let people in?
Right.
Same thing happened here. So why are they allowed to have tax-free status if they're not going to actually be a charity? You know,
I don't know. But if you want tax-free status and you want to argue for it here on the show, this is a chance to do it. This is a live call-in show, folks, and we're going to go get to calls in just a second here. But before I do that, I have to thank our wonderful, awesome patron of the week, like I do every single week. That's right. We give a special shout out to the folks who like to donate on patreon.com/truthwanted. And this week's patron is James Fitzwater. James Fitzwater, thank you so much for donating. And again, if you would like to make a donation, we would appreciate it. This show is completely, almost exclusively run by volunteers, including myself. It helps pay for things to keep the lights on, which we didn't do this week, but it wasn't because we weren't paying the electric bills. It was because craziness was happening. But yeah, really glad we get to do a show this week, and we hustled, we scrambled, we figured out a plan, and I want to give a big thanks to Greg, our awesome executive producer, for making things happen this weekend, as well as all the volunteers for donating their time even throughout all the craziness this week. So thank you guys, and thank you to our patron and everybody else who donates on patreon.com. But for now, let's get to some callers. You ready?
I'm awesome. This is awesome. Last time I tried to do live callers, we got racists. So I'm happy I'm happy that you guys have screeners.
Yeah, I don't know about racists, but we have a former Scientologist that would like to talk to us that called in last week. Maybe still identified. I don't know if they still identify. Al, you're live. Al from Wisconsin. You're live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Well, we have a great deal in common.
Okay, what's that?
I hate coffee.
Yeah? Now, is that because Scientology told you not to drink coffee, or is that just a personal preference?
It's a birth defect.
Oh, no.
Defect.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, never liked it.
Oh, okay.
I worked at places where people try and force me to drink coffee just because it's the thing to do.
Yeah,
I take a sip and so revolting.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, anyway,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
It's a whole thing, but yeah, no. I just want to introduce you again for those who aren't tuning in every single week. Al, you called in last week and you told us you not only were in Scientology, you were paying for classes for several years. You told us you put about $200,000 into your classes, and the only reason that you stopped going was not because you had any particular problems with the beliefs, but that the classes themselves were just getting too expensive, and that you would go again if you could afford it. So now you're calling back. I told you to come back next week so we could talk more stories about Scientology. So here you are. You called back. Thanks for being faithful to that. So what's going on, Al?
I'm glad to be here, but you made a few mistakes in your little presentation of me.
Okay. Well, feel free to correct the record.
Yeah, because we want the truth.
At the time, I did quit because it was getting too costly. However, I also wouldn't go back because I don't need them anymore.
Okay, but you still, my point, I guess, was that it wasn't that you disagreed with anything you learned. It was just you don't even feel like you need them anymore. Like you've advanced because you got the information from the class. Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, what OT level did you reach?
Do you know those levels? Tell me what you know.
I know that when you get to the Ring of Fire area of it and you have to go on the free winds to get the debriefing on OT, I think 8 is the one that I'm thinking of. Anything beyond a certain level, I know you have to get it on the ship. So,
okay, well, if you know the Ring of Fire, you're knowledgeable about information that is not supposed to be distributed.
Oh no, Anonymous did their job and let me know all this stuff.
Yeah, it's there's been a lot of stuff that's leaked about
I used to read
over the years. So
I used to read Operation Clambake all the time on Xenu.net and all this other stuff. So I know quite a bit about Scientology, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I did. Okay. I'm a Dianetic auditor, a solo Dianetic auditor. I've had my grades, I've had my levels, I'm an OT7 old style, I'm an OT7 new style, and I've had my L's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
now, if you know what that means.
Yeah, OT stands for Operating Thetan to the people that are wondering.
Yeah, and so basically I don't want to say anything wrong, so I'll try to give my explanation here, Alan. I guess you can correct it, but my understanding is that the Thetan is kind of this thing that's within people. It's kind of like a soul, but not really. But it's also a way for people to kind of control themselves and control what they do in the world. But it's also been in previous lives as well. It's kind of immortal almost. I don't know if it's like infinite necessarily, but it's a thing that's within people, and it kind of makes us, right? And that the clearer you become in Scientology, once you're auditing yourself and stuff, the more you kind of have control, and you're not as reactive to things around you. You're kind of more in control of your surroundings. Does that sound right according to what you understand?
Well, you're kind of close, I guess. For me, the word soul basically explains it.
Okay.
So there's just something in you that exists. And I'll say this: if you believe in reincarnation, then you believe you never die.
I mean, you would still die, like the body still dies, though. I mean, that's kind of dying, isn't it? I mean, I guess like if your soul is gone.
Not to a person that believes they just go on. It's just
but it would still hurt, though, wouldn't it? I mean,
I think that's kind of semantics at that point. But I get what you're saying. Like that's because last week, for context, again, we were talking about reincarnation. That's what we spent a lot of our time.
Yeah, we spent most. Yeah.
All right, I want to move past that today because, man, we don't talk to people who are in Scientology that much on here. In fact, we never really have. So, I'm very curious because, you spent a lot of time and money into this. You obviously got something out of it because you said that you don't even need the classes anymore. So, as obviously we're skeptical of this, right? Like everything I know about Scientology does not really give me any confidence in the validity of any of its claims. I'm not really convinced that it's good for humanity. I would be scared to entirely say what I would think Because I think if anybody's going to go after us as an organization with the ACA, it's going to be the Scientologists, right? Because like they have a history of litigiousness.
You don't want to screw with Scientology.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's going on? What do we do with that?
Don't buy their products, I guess.
Okay, what you're obviously convinced of this.
Good point.
So, like, what makes you convinced? Why aren't we convinced, and why are you convinced? What's the difference there?
Well, let me give you a little history of what I went through when I got into it and before it. Okay, it's going to sound kind of stupid. When I was 11 years old, I read a book about special relativity, and that's captured my whole life.
Okay.
When I was 12, I got a Playboy magazine, and I opened it, and there was an article in there, and I saw the words atheist. At that moment, that's what I knew I was. Since then, I've been a hardcore atheist. I think I'm more of an atheist than you are, but that's another story.
It's
I don't even know what that
power
means.
Levels, man.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, but okay.
It's a lack of belief in something. You can't do it harder than somebody else. That's what I'm trying to get at there. So
you guys say that we don't believe because we don't have a demonstration. So since you're not sure whether it's true or false, God that is, but since you see no demonstration of it, you're an atheist. Whereas I know there's no God. I don't have to look for data.
Okay,
so I call myself a hardcore atheist.
So it's Gnosticism then. It's not atheism. It's you're a hardcore you're not agnostic. You're a Gnostic atheist.
Was that what I am? I didn't know that.
Yeah. means you acknowledge that there's no God, but you still don't believe.
But you do believe in Thetans, and presumably, like, no, you don't believe in Thetans.
Oh, Thetans! I thought you said Satan.
No,
that's me.
Yeah. Like you do believe in some spirituality, I guess. There is something beyond the physical, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'll kind of put it this way: if you don't know God and you're a theist, let's say I can't remember how that goes. If you don't know what God is and you believe in God, you're a theist. If you know what God is, you're an atheist.
Wait. I don't even want to explore this right now because Al, you went to Scientology. Like, we need to talk about this because that is important to me right now. Like, this is like blowing my mind. I don't even want to get into the semantic.
So was it Dianetics that got you into it? Was it going to a center that got you into it? Was it someone doing auditing on you? Was it the
story?
Tech,
you start telling a story about special relativity and stuff. But yeah, like what? How did this happen?
Okay.
How did you get into it all? Yeah.
Be quiet and I'll tell you. I was a Buddhist,
kind of rude.
Okay? Somehow I got into Buddhism, and that has a great deal to do with reincarnation. And I was very fascinated with that. And when I encountered Scientology, basically they have a technology to help you realize what reincarnation is. And that is what attracted me. Totally. I wanted to know what happened before. And you have to go through a bunch of gobbledygook with Scientology before you get a chance to go into one of these so-called sessions. Are you with me?
I'm listening.
Okay, so I went through taking classes in this, studying life repair, and the grades. You got to pay a lot of money to do that. I was doing that just so I could get a session of reincarnation. And the day came, and I went over to somebody's house that was a very high-level person in Scientology. I had this session, which was about an hour long, and I'll tell you, man, it ripped my head off. I could not believe what I experienced. I would pay anything to have that experience.
In this experience, were you hooked up to an e-meter and then somebody was asking you questions? What was going on?
Okay, you're right, but you're having a kind of a bad slant to it.
Okay.
It's just a voltage meter is all it is. It's basically a lie detector. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, well, I know that the e-meters are like this big deal because it's this, patented technology within Scientology, and they've tried to, keep people from knowing too much about it for a long time. But as far as I know, they kind of just don't really work as advertised, let's say. Right? Al, you there? Uh-oh. Oh man, we got the call dropped in Colin's studio here. Man, this sucks. Come on, I want to know more about Scientology and what's going on there. This is our first time talking to somebody who has been in Scientology, and I don't understand, because this happened last week where we were talking about just other stuff, just way other things. Like, no, man, this is like way more weird to me. Like, I want to know more about this, but
it sounds to me that it was a fear of, or not even fear of death, but wanting to know what came before. So it sounds a lot like this experience with him in religion was very ego driven.
Well,
because he wants to know what he experienced before he lived in this current shell or whatever it is they have there. So I don't know. I find it unpalatable. So
it's interesting. I don't know what I don't know what drives somebody to be so interested in reincarnation that they think that Scientology has the answers there. That seems kind of a weird path to me, especially if you're starting off with kind of a Buddhist slant. I feel like, I don't know, the truths you would learn from Buddhism would probably be far superior than whatever you would learn in Scientology. Like, at least there's I don't know, some good life lessons there, you know, like, obviously I don't agree with the whole system, but like, at least like it's more palatable, you know, like,
but Buddhism is supposed to be a way of teaching yourself selflessness, to remove the ego is what it is supposed to be. Not to dig deep and find out if you were Joan of Arc in a previous life instead of a peasant, you know. It's just,
I don't know, but it looks like, I think we got Al back on the line again, so we're going to try to talk to him here. Right. I'm going to put him back on. Al, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Now we're back. So
let me continue.
Thank you, crew.
Go ahead.
You're talking about the E-meter. I think it's greatly overrated. If you take the classes in it, it's only slightly helpful in these sessions. It's not the big deal that it just measures your skin voltage. That's it. It's a lie detector.
That's my understanding of it too. So if you know that this is like not super great, not super amazing, what was it about the session that gave you this huge revelation?
I went to my first past life in this session. And I can't tell you how just incredibly amazing it is to go and see something you've done before. Now, so, like, when I went through this...
Yeah, go ahead. No, I just like, because I want to explain the process here for people so they understand what's happening. Were you you were sitting in a room with an E-meter and somebody was asking you questions and you were experiencing your past life? Like, what was going on? What was happening?
Okay, I'll describe it in sort of detail. It's in her basement. I'm sitting at a card table. This middle-aged lady is sitting across from me. She's supposed to be one of the best on the planet. And I'm holding these two tin cans, which are connected to this voltage meter, essentially. And we had established a keyword called loneliness, okay? And she just said, find a time when you felt lonely. And I thought of, the first thing I thought of was laying in my house where I grew up, waiting for my parents to come home. And you go over this session again and again and again. And then the question is asked, okay, locate another time you felt lonely. Or it's locate an earlier time you felt lonely. And I went and remembered something, I don't know what it was now, and we go over that and over that for a while. And then she said, okay, remember an earlier time you were lonely. And she said, when was it? And I said, about 500 years ago or something. I can't remember what it was now. And she said, what do you see? And I saw myself on the tail end of a boat, a big boat, sailboat going through the ocean. I had been, now this is kind of personal, okay? I remember that I was in a tavern in England, and somebody drugged me, and I woke up on this ship. And I was forced into slave labor on this ship. That's it.
Okay. So how do you know that this was a memory from 500 years ago and not something that your brain came up with in the moment?
I don't.
Okay, so it's just down to belief then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it was so real to me. And I've been through this. Well, like I said, I was at this Scientology stuff for a long time, and I went through many of these sessions, and it's just staggering what you see. I mean, I can't explain it to you. I cannot tell you that it's real. I cannot tell you that it's something I really experienced. It's much like remembering what happened to you in kindergarten.
Yeah, I agree that our memory is really bad at, actually doing the remembering thing, right? Like it's not as good as people say it is. Eyewitness testimony is notorious for being one of the worst forms of evidence. So yeah, if I told you something that happened in kindergarten, a good way to validate that would be like, let's say, oh, I remembered I did really poorly in this part in kindergarten. I could at least find a record of what I actually did in kindergarten and show you like, oh, look, I did poorly on this, I don't know, assignment. I don't know what really, do you get assignments in kindergarten? Not really, I guess, huh? No. Like, can you fail nap time? I don't think that's how that works, but you get what I'm saying, right? There's still records. Other people were there. People who weren't 5 years old were there and could tell me about things that happened in my life so that they could confirm something that I remembered or not, right? But if we're talking about something that happened 500 years ago, allegedly, in a previous life, allegedly, what is stopping me or anybody else from just, feeling something, from somebody asking me a bunch of repetitive questions and just saying, oh, this is what I experienced? Because I know that you're smart enough, Al, to know that you're not the only person who's ever said that they remembered stuff in a past life. And I know you're smart enough to know that what a lot of people say is bullshit. So how do we determine between what's real and what's not? Because I think you told me yourself, you don't know if there's like you don't know if it's true or not, but it's something that you believe. So my question is just like, why even believe it in the first place? Like, what makes it so compelling besides the vividness of the experience that this is even real? Because I can tell you, I thought I've remembered stuff from movies and things before, and I go back and I watch it, and that wasn't what happened. I mean, like, you can look at all kinds of stuff with the Mandela effect.
Mandela effect, yeah.
I mean, so like, I don't know. It's very curious to me, Al, that this is something that you hold on to.
And for me, can we agree that memories are implanted, are in the brain, right? Memories exist within the brain. They are neural pathways to sense memories that you have, of whether it being light being a certain way or, smells, looks, taste, whatever it is. How could something from 500 years hence be in your current mind?
Yeah, that's true too.
The things that come up like this are things that are emotionally or physically extreme.
But where did they come from, though? I mean, is it a soul, or is it your thetan? I mean, what are we talking about? That is the format of the memory. Where does it come from? Because if you're talking about putting an M2 drive in a computer, yeah, you could put it into a new computer, but it involves actually being physical, and that's how we exist. We're sentient meat computers, and so we have to have storage in order for this stuff to exist. What, in your opinion, what is the storage medium that hops from body to body?
Can't tell you. I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay. So I got nothing else, because I don't know how you can explain.
Well, I just want to go back to my question real quick. Yeah. Because I just want to know why believe this to be true.
Because I was there.
But again,
we have kids that were ran through the Satanic Panic stuff,
right,
where
exactly.
there were memories that they brought up that had nothing to do with their actual reality.
Right. Hundreds of children during the Satanic Panic were asked by counselors and other individuals about memories that they never had because of suggestive question asking. So what is to say that this experience you had wasn't also the result of somebody asking you questions in a certain way and causing you to remember things that didn't actually happen?
And your mind picks up on stuff all over the place,
You're talking over me.
Well, I'm the guest here, so yes, I'm going to talk.
I'm trying to say the questions were not suggestive in any way.
Look, I've seen how these auditing sessions work, right? So it's like I know what they asked.
Apparently.
What
I didn't like your answer to this question. Let me ask the same question to you over again, and your brain starts searching.
Let's do this. Auditing, from what I understand now, right? You've got yourself in the room and the auditor. They're asking you questions about a specific event that happened in your life, maybe a time you felt sad. It's about a specific emotion, right? And they ask you about this event again, over and over and over, right? And they ask you, and they ask you for more details every single time. And they repeat it, right? They repeatedly ask you, and they ask you to tell the story from beginning to end on multiple times. Is that correct?
Well, you're a little heavy on it because they don't ask it over and over. They ask you once, and you go over it yourself. And also, the word that you use, that the person gives you, is one that you came up with. They simply say, "Do you have something you want to talk about?"
Right.
And you give them some words. So you come up with the words. Essentially, the person going through this sets up the whole thing. There's just very simple words that are used that have no meaning whatsoever.
Right. So I know they're not specifically asking you, what do you remember from like 500 years ago? Right. Like that's
Tell me
not
about the time you're a pirate. It's not the question they're asking.
They're not asking anything but that. But they are asking you questions about, like, tell me about a time when you felt really sad, or when somebody made you feel a certain way, right? Like they are asking questions about how you felt emotionally about things, right?
The question would be like, remember a time you were sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So they are asking you about, they want specific because they don't know you, right? They don't know your life, but they're going to ask you about times when you felt a certain way. Yeah.
Okay,
and then
I have a problem here. There's a problem here.
Okay, what's your problem, Al? Because my problem here, what I'm hearing so far, is if they're asking you questions about how you feel about something, or about a time when you felt a certain way, that's already a charged question in itself. Because if you remember something strongly and have an emotional attachment to it, you're already biased to that event, right? Because the times where I've been the most mad that I can remember, the most sad, I'm probably not going to be the best witness to them because I'm already emotionally impacted, right? So it's already not completely objective.
Right now, all you're trying to do is make me wrong.
No,
we're
trying to make you wrong, Alan. I'm trying to figure out how you or anybody can know an event that happened 500 years ago, because that doesn't make sense to me. But what does make sense? What does make sense, Al, is if somebody is asking us questions a particular way, it makes us form our memories, to reconstruct ourselves. That makes more sense to me.
This conversation has become pointless.
Okay, goodbye. Have a good one.
Bye.
If it's pointless, then why are you here?
Here's the thing.
I haven't spent $250,000 for someone to implant memories into my head, so that's cool, buddy.
Listen, I'm not trying to make fun of Al. I'm not trying to do anything to harm this man or tell him that he is necessarily wrong for what he believes. Obviously, our beliefs are very personal to us, but
you're so nice.
Obviously, there is something here, right? Like there is a series of events that happened to cause him to, quote unquote, remember this event occurring. It didn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
Okay. This was a series of circumstances and events that caused him to have this event. Like this event happened, and then this memory occurred. Before this wasn't a thing going around in his head.
Right.
And at least from what he told us.
So, and from my opinion, for years and years and years of auditing, you get into this relationship where you have interviewer versus interviewee, and you're looking for the stimulus / response that you get whenever someone asks you a question, and then you answer it, and they either give you the good, yes, that's what we wanted to hear, or no, let me ask the same thing again. And so what happened there is that his mind, and I'm not speaking specifically, I can't be in his own brain to tell him this whole thing, but my understanding would be, I'm going to ask you a very triggering question, triggering meaning psychological trigger, about your sadness or loneliness, or I think is what he said, loneliness, or I don't remember which one it was, but he gave his answer, but that wasn't the answer that the interviewer wanted to get. So his mind searches for an answer that he thinks would fit that response. See, and I'm not saying he did this consciously. I'm not saying that he did this as like some sort of nefarious way of getting out of things. I'm very much a determinist guy. And so when it comes to free will, I think that his brain searched for something, came up with it on the spot, and he put it out there.
I'm not going to play armchair psychologist and say anything about Al's condition or state that, caused him to have the beliefs that he had, because that's not my place.
Yeah.
But he made the claim that, they weren't asking me any suggestive questions, or they weren't asking me questions that would make it, this all came from me. And that's what I have the problem with, because that's obviously not true. And I don't think it's necessarily the goal in these audit sessions to bring out memories from past lives. I know they talk about like prenatal memories and stuff like that. From my understanding of Scientology, that's not necessarily the goal. I think that's something that he got from it, but it is to talk about emotionally charged memories,
and a lot,
and that's going to change the way you view things, right? Like that's if you talk about it enough and you repeat it enough, like your memories do change on these events. That's just a demonstrated fact. For me, the analog to auditing that you have with Scientology is confession. Or talking to your pastor, talking to your bishop about stuff that you've done wrong recently. It's a matter of giving up emotional control over your own life and giving it to someone else and trusting in them that they're going to take care of you and be good to you. Yeah. Next week's guest, actually, let me check the calendar right. No, it's actually a week after that. We're actually going to have somebody, at least if all goes planned, somebody who experimented a little bit with Scientology themselves, and so maybe they can give us some more insight on that. Not out of research purposes, as in they became members of the church.
Oh wow!
Undercover. But
I looked into it when I was coming out of Christianity here in Utah. I was like, oh, maybe Scientology has science in the name of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of how they get some people, huh? But it's pretty wild. Al, if you're listening, I'd like to talk to you about it again, maybe on a different day. But I feel for you, man. You put a lot of money into this. This is interesting to me. I'm just very curious about how you could be sure of something and know that this is true, and at the same time say, well, I don't know that this is true. And to build so much of a belief on that, that's pretty wild. That's a lot of faith that I do not have. So anyway, we actually have another former Scientologist who wants to talk to us. We got RJ calling in from Texas who wants to continue the conversation. Nice. RJ, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty good. I saw that, like the call screener wrote out here. You're also a former Scientologist?
I was, I was born and raised in it and got out when I was 13.
Born and raised
in it? For a little while before that, yes.
So luckily never got involved with Sea Org and signed the billion-year contract or anything like that?
No, but my parents did.
Oh, no.
Wow. Wow.
So I hope they treated you better than some of the horror stories that I've heard.
Tell us about that situation. Yeah, I'm curious.
If you want to.
For sure. It's just a question of how far to start, They were highly susceptible to Scientology stuff, came from very troubled backgrounds, and Scientology promised them very basic kind of things you would learn in psychology. Like, my mom couldn't even talk to the grocery store clerk. She was so anxious all the time. And so they had her do this little communications course. She got in it through her stepmom. And she could talk to people again. So she was like, clearly this has all the answers. And so she joined the Sea Org at 15.
Oh, man.
And my dad had a super troubled background. He was like looking for answers in life. And, they were willing to give him answers to everything. And,
see, and it's not to say that some of their tech doesn't make sense, like in a way of, teaching people to communicate better or to visualize things better. Like some of their drills that they have you go through is basic, public speaking 101 kind of stuff. There's a lot of tech in there that is actually beneficial.
Yeah,
I think unfortunately it's wrapped around a cult.
Yeah. And that's really what's, I think, surprising to a lot of people is if you go to a Scientology or church right now, there you don't go into a class where you learn about Xenu. You go into like a communications course, or you go into like a, it's presented as something completely different. It's supposed to be this kind of helpful for life kind of stuff. And I think that's actually a lot of people's relationship with Scientology is, they wanted to take some courses in this stuff, and maybe they took some and they got out, or they got higher up into the organization. And so like it's way more common than what people think it is. So yeah. But
yeah. And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You get the more the more entrenched you get, the more abuse of power there is, and aggression, and very aggressive selling techniques, and all sorts of crazy
and gaslighting too.
When they Yeah. And when they started to realize that I was, 1 foot out the door, ready to leave when I was probably 8, they had me do some auditing, and it was exhausting. Like it was a trance akin to drugs,
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are definitely on the ball with the suggestive questions. That's all it was, am I saying what the auditor wants me to say? And they go down to every single little detail, like what color was the grass when you were sad, and all of these things. And I'd be like, well, I don't remember, but I have to tell them something.
But you have to give an answer.
You have to give an answer. Yeah. Exactly. Their stimulus requires a response. So.
Right. And this is, I think that's, this confuses people because it's like, well, how do you come up with something like that if it's not true, right? There has to be some sort of truth to it. And what it really is, I mean, I can relate to this because when I was a Christian, right? What's the thing when you go to church camp and you hear other people talk about how they became Christians? Everybody has a story, right? Everybody has this whole, I was doing drugs, but I was inspired by the Holy Spirit, or like, I was a bad kid. I was having premarital sex all the time or something. And there is a pressure there in that culture to have something cool. I did the same thing. Go back to my video where I talked to Anthony Magdamasco. I said I was an atheist. Yeah, I think I didn't believe in God for like a day or two. I think that's what that really meant. I didn't have any understanding of the philosophical discussions about what the word atheist meant, or any of the real implications of that word. But I use that as part of my story because you're encouraged to do that. Like that's part of the thing. And so like, in these auditing sessions, again, this is from what I understand because I have no personal experience, but they do ask you questions about like, what was the color? If you remember a time you were swimming, they'll ask you, what was the color of your swimsuit, or other things. And it may be things that they ask you that because they expect an answer. You can't say, I don't know, because the belief system in Scientology is, you do know. Actually, everyone is capable of perfect recall. So you have to give like an answer, right? So yeah, at least that's my understanding. Am I right, RJ?
Getting bad grades.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We all have picture perfect memories. And if you can't remember everything perfectly, that means that you did a bad thing. And if you didn't do a bad thing in this life, you did it in a past life.
Yeah.
And any sort of failure of memory means that you're a bad Scientologist who has things that you need to declare and make amends for.
Yeah, man, that sounds brutal. So
like you said about having, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
What you said about having, like your story of like how you got into it, because that really like cements the us versus them, right?
Yeah.
Like while everybody else is having problems, we found our solution or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
and
what was the question you were going to ask?
Well, because like Scientology, they make a big deal about your identity, and they make a big deal about not seeking information that is critical of Scientology. That I don't know if even a lot of Scientologists even know about all the stuff that's written against Scientology.
No, they're not supposed to look for it.
Because they're not supposed to look for it. Yeah, so I'm curious, like you grew up around that. How did you get out of that?
Well, weirdly enough, I was in the like their media room where they just had a TV and a bunch of DVDs where they keep all their like attack videos. And because they know that you can't completely avoid like anti-Scientology, as they call it, coverage in the media. Like, we're going to walk past newsstands and stuff, so they'll make videos about the thing, saying Scientology is so great and all these people are awful, horrible, you know, don't listen to them. So I saw one that said anonymous, and I was like, oh, like, I think I've heard about that. And I popped it in, and I was like, oh my God, these people are full of shit. Like, everything the anonymous people were saying was completely on point. So I went home and I tried to find the anonymous stuff and couldn't find it. But that was pretty much, that was the end of it, of, you know, like, this isn't the real world.
Wow.
Know?
And if you're comfortable talking about it, what was that dynamic like with your family then? Because you were pretty young, you were 13. So I'm guessing you didn't really talk about it too much, unless maybe you did, and maybe there were consequences, or what was up with that? Because
with your parents both being Sea Org members, if you came out talking about that stuff, I would think they would declare you an SP.
Yeah, like how did? I mean, obviously, whatever you're comfortable telling.
Yeah. I mean, they got kicked out of the Sea Org when they had me.
Okay.
I'm not really allowed to have kids in the Sea Org, and my mom didn't want me to be like illiterate or whatever, like most of the kids in the Sea Org.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because when you said that both your parents were into it, I was like, oh man, hopefully she wasn't passed around like a lot of the Sea Org kids are, where they're bounced to house, and it's really super sad.
Yeah, no, we got demoted to the San Francisco org there, which is one of the bigger ones, but and still very under heavy Sea Org influence compared to a lot of the smaller ones. And my stepdad was very heavily involved, and I didn't really see him that much. He worked like overnights, holidays, etc. And I didn't really talk to them about it. I was just, honestly, it went by so fast. It was kind of a blur of a couple of months where I was going to the org less and less, and seeing my friends less and less, and making friends at school instead. And one day, kind of out of the blue, my mom was like, we're leaving Scientology. Like, it was all a lie, and none of it was valid or real or needs to be a part of our lives anymore. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, I guess you were kind of over it at that point, but yeah. Wow. That I can't imagine. I just can't imagine.
Childhood friends and my stepdad, and you know, all the people that I'd grown up around, I mean, barely ever saw them after that. I think it was 7 years before I saw my stepdad again.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So do you know people? I guess you know people who are still in it now, huh? Do you have any contact with anybody else that's still around and doing stuff?
I text my stepdad now and then, and my two best friends since I was 3 years old. I had one of them on Snapchat, and we would text each other on there. But after the last time I came around and kind of made a ruckus, I haven't really heard much from my friends or any of them. One of my old schoolmates actually harassed $50 out of me and basically cut off communication. Yeah.
So they haven't gone as far as like calling you a squirrel.
If you don't give us the $50. My mom's a whistleblower, so she's declared a suppressive person.
Okay. Wow.
No one in Scientology is allowed to talk to her.
And they have like the Squirrel Busters come around and tried to come after her for anything, or has she been pretty much under the radar on that one? That's good.
I think she was.
Those guys are abusive as fuck.
Yeah, but Marty Rathburn was, I mean, he was a head honcho. So they were really invested on getting him to shut up as much as possible.
I've watched all of the Going Clears and the series that they had on A&E for a while. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but It's the one with Leah Remini, and it had
right.
Mike Lindell, not Lindell. That's the My Pillow guy. Mike Render. Sorry,
Mike Render. Yeah, and those guys are doing stuff about it. Yeah, like I said, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. Some of that stuff in a couple of weeks here. But like,
that's awesome. I'm glad you found your way out.
Yeah, like I want to know now that you're an adult, RJ. You're calling in. Obviously, you're at least somewhat comfortable talking about it, or else you wouldn't be on the show here. But I'm obviously this is painful. I mean, like this affected your life in such a dramatic way. I mean, how do you feel towards people like Al and people, the previous caller who just called in, who, claimed that they got something out of Scientology, and just like the church in general? Because, like, every year has not been a good year for Scientology. Like, it's not like their public image has improved,
right.
So like, how is that like, knowing your experiences and knowing that you have these views and ideas and worlds that most people just can't even begin to understand?
I mean, it's tricky. They just find so many ways to hook themselves in who you are that it's very hard to find out the ways that they're even influencing you. And it takes a lot of therapy, and it takes a lot of kind of introspection and people willing to call you out, to be like, oh shit, like this side. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to swear.
You're good.
Like, they're still affecting me, like,
yeah.
I understand why they still believe it, because you're put in a very vulnerable position, kind of like spiritual interrogation, and they hypnotize the hell out of Scientologists. They really do.
Yep.
So, it's like any other cult. Like, they'll drug their parishioners or hypnotize them or whatever, and sometimes nothing will undo that.
So to sway it from the sad stuff, I want anybody out there that's really interested in the history of Scientology. This is just a personal shout out to Paul F. Tompkins. He's a comedian, if anybody knows who that is. He had an episode of his show called the Dead Authors Podcast. He pretends to be the guy that wrote The Time Machine. Anyway, he has on the episode with him Andy Daly playing L. Ron Hubbard, and they're talking about, truthfully, everything that started the Scientology church. And so it's really funny to go listen to. It's called the Dead Authors Podcast. And there's a two-parter with L. Ron Hubbard. And I think everybody should go listen to it because it is hilarious. So,
RJ, I just want to say thank you so much for calling in and talking about your experiences with us. That it's, I know that can't be easy, and I'm really grateful that you decided to, tell us about that on the show. Is there anything that you want to tell us before we let you go and before we go on to another call, or anything you just got on your heart? You just got to let the world know.
I definitely recommend the Leah Remini and Mike Render podcast called Fair Game, and Tony Ortega's blog and Mike Render's blog and Chris Shelton. And outside of that, just if you're stuck in something that you can even remotely relate to Scientology, there is a way out, and people are willing to help you.
Yep. You have support.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
RJ, thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling in with that. Just makes me feel a lot of things. I don't know. It's
this wash of sad, angry, upset, empathetic. There's all of these different neurons firing at the same time. It's like, shit, I don't know how to process this.
So here's the thing. We had two calls here. Okay. Yeah. We've had Al, who says he's gotten a lot of good things and good experiences out of his time with Scientology. And I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that he's gotten positive things from his experiences with the organization. And we have our other caller, RJ, who has told us about the absolute shit show that it is to be a part of Scientology and to have that impact on their lives. And these are two people whose experiences are both affected, like emotionally in some way or another. And I don't doubt that they sincerely both believe the things that they believe. And I think this is just a great example of the dichotomy that you can have in your experiences with religion in general, and why I just try to keep that sense of open-mindedness even when I'm talking to other Christians, of whom I don't share the same faith with anymore. Because although obviously some of my experience with the Christianity have been negative, I had some great stuff out of that too, that kept me in this belief system for a lot longer than I should have, because I was afraid of what was on the other side.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the courage to go out into the unknown. And it reminds me of the importance of communities like this with the atheist community of Austin. Because if it wasn't for the brave fuckers that were willing to talk about this shit on air for years and years, speaking truth to power to assholes who would tell them, no, that their realities are wrong, that they had to be gaslighted of their experiences, that Christianity is fine, and that even if it wasn't fine for you, you just weren't in the right church, or you just had this bad experience. This happens all the time, every day. So fuck anybody that says that this isn't important.
Right. And that's for me, like when I was a kid growing, like I said, I grew up in the military. My family was all I had. So wherever place we moved to, my old man got moved like every 2 years to a different base. And so I didn't have like tons of friends growing up that moved with me. That never happened. So it was always just my family. And so coming out as being anti-religion or not believing in religion would be a quick one-way ticket to like an ass beating. It wasn't a thing that I could just, I didn't have a community where I could lean on to get out of that kind of thing. And finally, when we settled roots here, I got out of religion. So I'm happy for that. And so I'm glad that RJ found her way out at a relatively young age. And I'm glad her parents left the Sea Org instead of, God, because I've heard so many horror stories of how they're treated as members. So
you can talk. I mean, and obviously entire books have been written about, Scientology and the experiences there. But like, I can't keep going on about it. I really can't keep going on about it. I have to move on. But like, this is, when you're talking to people, folks, just remember, like you're talking to a human, you're talking to human beings with life experiences that you can't make assumptions about. And this isn't about a logical argument game at the end of the day. You're having to deal with a lot of emotional barriers that are going to keep people moving from one place to another for one reason or another. And hey, I talked about this before too. Look, I'm involved in the atheist community now. If you tried to bring me towards anywhere else, there's going to be emotional barriers now too, because I got friends here who care about me and who are going to be immediately skeptical of whatever kind of new belief I've picked up. Right. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
All your friends are going to go to the bite model with anything that you bring up to them.
Basically. Yeah. That's basically my time with being a vegan. Actually, is somehow I'm in a new cult, but that's a whole other thing. But let's move on, because I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk to Scott, who's calling in from Texas. Scott, let's change pace in this conversation a little bit. How you doing tonight, Scott?
Hey, Scott.
I'm good, guys. How are you guys?
Doing all right. It's been heavy so far. It's been really crazy, but glad that we're here. What's going on?
So I wanted to talk about some experiences that I had about 10 years ago that were kind of terrifying at the time, but actually helped me, I guess, towards being more of a skeptical in the future. So the story goes back, I say, about 10 years ago when I lived in the UK. I used to live with stay with a friend a lot on a farm. And the barns that we used to stay in were converted into houses and stuff, but they were like 17th century. So there was loads of ghost stories surrounding the place. And I don't know, I didn't know what I believed at the time. I didn't really have any kind of God beliefs or anything, but I wasn't really a skeptic either. But every time I stayed in the guest room in this barn, about 50% of the time I'd have these like awful experiences where I'd wake up in the middle of the night feeling someone was there and like leaning over me and pushing me down, and I couldn't say anything or do anything or open my eyes, and eventually it would kind of pass. And it kind of happened so much staying in that room that I just got so used to it that I would just kind of let it pass, and I wasn't as scared as I was. But every time I asked the owner of the house, they were like, oh, yeah, that room's just haunted. Don't worry about it, And I was like, okay. And I didn't really ask any more questions about it until like about 5 years ago. I picked up a book by Guy P. Harrison called 50 Popular Beliefs That People Think Are True. And I started delving into it, and I got to the bit about alien abduction. And suddenly people are talking about alien abduction like they were like I had this experience. And then it started talking about sleep paralysis. And suddenly it's like a light went on. And I was like, oh my God, but I'd never heard of it before. And then suddenly I'm like, oh my, like, this was just, it was completely, this made so much more sense.
Yeah.
Even considering that it was a ghostly experience.
Yeah. That makes sense, right? Yeah. You found an explanation that was better suited for what you experienced than a ghost explanation or a demon explanation. That's great.
That's the light that went off in my head when you were starting to talk about it. I'm like, sleep paralysis, maybe?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're, is it happening only when you're staying in this place? So are you eating a curry before going to bed and that's making you have those things?
Well, I kind of feel silly about it because I guess I didn't know about sleep paralysis until I really dived into the skeptical stuff. So it wasn't like I was going around with this big ghost belief where I'd go out and hunt ghosts. I just didn't question it, which was really weird. So when I learned about sleep paralysis, and then I realized, I think what the contributing factor was every time I stayed at this place, we were doing really long road trips to get there, like 7-8 hours. And I think I was just like going to sleep before letting my body relax. And then it was this kind of mismatch of my mind not catching up with my body going to sleep. But I think the important, like what I really learned from it, and this only happened about 5 years ago, I picked up this book. Because I always saw myself as I guess I just never believed in a God. I don't think I ever called myself an atheist, but I had all these other beliefs that I guess I didn't think were related. Like, I didn't believe in a God, but I'd use homeopathic remedies and I'd do all this kind of stuff. And I never thought they were really kind of related. And now, like from, watching you guys and watching the experience, I just realize now how much I question. And, again, just all these dominoes are starting to fall.
Yeah.
And like, oh, wow, okay, this may not be real either.
Isn't it interesting? I think it happens because when we see other people and we're like, oh, well, I think this person's kind of smart and they're kind of skeptical of this thing. What else are they skeptical of? And that's where like the kind of skeptic kind of community comes into play, where it's like, yeah, here's a bunch of shit we don't believe in, which is kind of interesting. Like that's not really a thing anywhere else except, where we
with you moving to Texas, you haven't found God yet? Have they not indoctrinated you into God yet?
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
I think if anything, it's made me definitely more kind of away from it. Like when it's in your face so much. It wasn't. I didn't feel like that in England. I don't know if anyone else from the UK would disagree with me, but I feel like most of my friends, you never even spoke about God. Like a few went to Sunday school, maybe a couple went to church, but there was never like this constant thing that you had to battle against or argue about. It was kind of there. I
don't know where you live in Texas, Scott, but I'm sure your experience has probably been a bit different here, huh?
Yeah, a tiny bit. Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I'm San Antonio, so it's a mixed bag here as well. But like, it's not too bad. But yeah, it was very different over there. So when I got over here to the USA, I was like, oh wow, this is like a really big thing. And I've got a lot of friends here that are very heavily religious, not just religious like they were back home. Like every guides their whole life, and it was very difficult to kind of I don't know, get into that, but
yeah. It is funny because obviously I have friends in other countries and places, and they say the same thing as you, Scott. It's like, oh yeah, like religion's not even like a thing here. Like we don't even really talk about it. Like, yeah, maybe somebody believes in God, but like that's about the extent of it. Whereas if you come down to around these parts, well, son, if you ain't going to church, then something's wrong with you. You gotta have something in your life. What's going? It's always like, and like, yeah, San Antonio. I mean, fairly. I mean, it's a city, so there's gonna be a lot of progressive people there, but there's still a lot of religious folks. I mean, I used to live there a couple of years, and I mean, that's gonna be anywhere you go in Texas, even here in Austin, you'll find it, although less to a degree, less so than other cities here. But yeah, it's a difference in culture for sure.
Yeah, Utah's pretty passive aggressive when it comes to beliefs around here. People aren't going to go. I mean, unless they're a-holes, they're not going to go around asking what your beliefs are and stuff.
Yeah.
Except when they are confronted by staunch atheists or people like me that consider myself a Satanist. They're just like, oh my God. It's still like a great freak out moment for a lot of things. And it's like, hang on, let me tell you what that means before you get any ideas in your head. Oh, it's always fun.
Yeah, I mean, most of my friends here are either Christian or part of the Catholic community, and they're already, none of them, really talk about it or try and, talk to me about it. They're just, it's absolutely fine, and that's why it works. But, I think, I let them know I'm an atheist, but I don't also, make them sit down and listen to anything about it or anything like that, and it works just fine, So.
Yeah.
Let me evangelize to you. Payback's a bitch.
That is I will tell you this, in my personal life, Scott, this has been a weird issue for me because obviously, I have this show. So it's like, as soon as if I get to know somebody new and it's like, and that comes up, it's like, well, not only do I have a lot of thoughts about it, like people on the internet listen to it sometimes for some reason. So it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of a feather in my cap, it's kind of a thing, but,
I'm popular on the internet.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
I can.
Go ahead.
It's great what you're doing. I'm in the entertainment business as well, and I'd love to be able to do more stuff like that. But I guess I just haven't got the guts that you guys have to actually bring that kind of stuff up within my performances and things like that. Because I know that by doing it, I will alienate people, and I know you guys have had to.
Well,
deal with that and
just use a different name, and that's all you need. Outcast X, not his birth name.
No, because I have a professional career where I do very well at that, and that's not what I don't. Never should the two streams cross. Don't cross the streams, because I have professional me and then I have internet me, and internet me is a whole lot of fun, but professional me likes to get a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so. I say, Scott, if you got the experience, hey, don't let a fear of reprisal of your opinions hold you back. There's a lot of ways around that. You can do it, and even if it's not there's a lot of volunteers here at the ACA that have those that like to help out, but don't want to be in front of the camera for the exact same reasons, and so they find other ways to do it. There's always going to be ways to do it, and that's not just for you, Scott. That's for anybody who has an interest in wanting to make their voices heard. Hey, contact some folks here at the ACA. If we don't need any help here, there's people that can give you advice. We always want to encourage more voices in this community because that's important. It's good that we speak out. The opinions in this country will be so much different if there were more people who weren't, scared of speaking out. I honestly believe that. I honestly think that if the social fear of being an atheist wasn't there, if that stigma wasn't there, we would have so much more progress in this country in talking about it. But that's why we try to break it down.
Sorry, Dan. I don't think it's so much the fear of, obviously I'll tell anyone that I know that I'm an atheist. It doesn't bother me too much. I guess it's like what Elkar said, when I put it into my professional life.
Yeah, the repercussions of it. Yeah.
Alienate my business, Yeah,
because you don't want to tell your boss you think that their religion's full of shit, right?
So here's my suggestion. If you're going to do that, go buy a pseudonym, make yourself an avatar. There's tons of people that have just avatars online. If you're going to make just podcast, if you don't want to be on video, do podcasting. Podcasting is still one of the fastest growing ways of people getting their messages out there. And hell, I listen to 20 hours of them a week, at least. I've got no life in either, but besides the job. But the thing is, if you have a drive and you want to, if you said you're an entertainer, right? So if you're into entertaining people, there's a need for you to do this stuff.
Hell yeah.
And so what I suggest to anybody that ever expresses any kind of interest in being a content creator, whether it be podcasting, videos, TikToks, whatever it is, start now. Your first stuff is going to suck. Don't wait for you to have all the right equipment you need. Don't wait for you to find a good time to do it and fit it into your schedule. Sit down in front of something that can record audio or video and just do some stuff. Just state your opinion on a news thing that you read. Your audience is out there waiting for you. You just don't know it yet. So
hell yeah. I like that. Scott, thanks so much for calling in.
Thanks so much, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah, have a good one, and appreciate your call as always. He was talking about the ghost stuff. And
I love ghost.
Here's the thing. Okay, so I've been hanging out with Genetically Modified Skip this week. He and his wife, we have this thing now where I guess the three of us were, they were already doing it before, but I've joined in now, where they will watch Ghost Adventures together, and we just kind of talk about it. I guess we've been having these Ghost Adventures nights, and oh my goodness, Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel, star with Zach Baggins. All right, best thing ever. So let me tell you what we watched just last night. They were at this old hospital, and in order to capture footage for this ghost, they use an Xbox Kinect camera. An Xbox Kinect camera. And according to Zach said that it's one of the best cameras out there for doing this because it's so accurate with its facial recognition and body recognition that you can actually pick up ghosts.
The infrared dot sensor.
Yes. The dots can pick up ghosts, X.
I feel like it has to reflect off of something, you dumbass.
In the episode, there's like, it picks up this body or something on the side, and it was right when this guy got hurt on the side of his body. So it must have been a doctor working on him. It's like, have you guys ever worked with a Kinect before? Have you guys ever tried to play a Kinect game? Shit does not fucking work. I don't think it's picking up on ghosts unless it's that bad of a system that it can't pick up on living people, but can only pick up on ghosts.
But it can get the ghosts. And anytime these people do the whole, well, we have audio of something here, and we're going to edit this audio until we can hear something that's audible. It's like, yeah, that's not how audio recording works. And then when they finally get something, they're like, did you hear that? Did you hear what it said? And all you hear is, and they're like, that means that person just said, I want to kill you. And then your brain goes, oh, okay, now that's all I'm going to hear whenever I hear that thing repeated. And it's like, damn it.
They just have the latest and greatest ghost hunting technology out there. And they're streets ahead. All right. We need to start filming this show with a Kinect camera, or I need to start setting up my apartment with Kinect cameras everywhere so that we can have the best ghost footage possible. We're willing to this is a Patreon goal, guys. If everybody donates today, we can make this happen as part of our eventual ghost investigation. Or we do this. We need to get Zach Baggins on the show. Everybody on Twitter at Zach Baggins. I don't know what he is on Twitter, but let's talk to him on Truth Wanted. I want to know what makes the Kinect so good at picking up ghosts, because I was losing it. I was absolutely losing it. I could not believe what I was seeing. But
see, and if it was just a matter of them having fun and wanting to like play pretend that they're finding these things, and that's fine, because I have a next door neighbor that goes Sasquatching. He literally goes to the mountains and hunts for Bigfoot with his family. I view it as them having an excuse to go camping, something they could do. But at the same time, it's like, really? Do you really believe this?
I don't know.
Or are you just having fun?
Travel Channel, come on, come pick up your boy. Let's make Truth Wanted a show. That's all I'm saying. If you can put Ghost Adventures on there, you can have a budget for us.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Whoa, did you hear that, guys? Whoa, crazy.
My pants are getting warm all of a sudden, and there's all this liquid now showing up.
Oh my god! All I'm saying was I was just losing it. That's Ghost Adventures. But anyway, folks, we're getting towards the end of this particular episode of Truth Wanted. But don't go away just yet, because we're gonna pop over onto the Discord for the after show. So if you're watching this live, come check us out over there. I want to give thanks to Outcast X for being on our particular program today. Thank you, X, for being on.
Thank you for having me on. You're so goddamn nice, Dan. there's some people when they just start, oh, you're talking over me. Excuse the fuck out of me.
I'm grateful for anybody that wants, well, not anybody that calls into this show. Right. But look, you're spending time your Friday night. You want to have a conversation. I think that's good. I'm glad. I'm willing to talk. I wish people were more open to talking about this stuff.
I'm nice until I'm wronged, and then I'm not nice anymore.
Well, anyway, if people want to see more of your style of content, see what you're up to, where can they do that?
You could find me at youtube.com/Utah Outcasts. You could also find me at Outcast X on YouTube. You can just search for that one. There's going to be links here. There's people putting them in chat and everything. Find the podcast. It's Utah Outcast. It's pretty easy to find. UtahOutcast.com has links to just about everything that I do out there. That's what I am on Twitter as well, and I'm prolific on there. If you want to get music recommendations and me just getting angry at Ted Cruz for no reason whatsoever. Not a reason whatsoever to be mad at Ted Cruz.
No. Everybody loves a trip to Cancun, especially this time of year. I hear it's nice.
That's what I really want to go do, and that asshole is going when it's the pandemic. What a dick.
I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about Ted Cruz that I can't say on this platform, but if you want to join us on Discord, I'm sure I'll have more to say. So you should do that. But also, hey, do you like this show? There's a couple of different ways you can support this show, which you should think about doing. Well, one way is to email us if you want to have any inquiries. It's truth@atheist-community.org. That is the email for the show. I look at all of those, so please email me sometime. I try to respond to everybody. And you can also follow me on Twitter @ObjectivelyDan. Hey, guess what? We have a new Truth Wanted Twitter account that I don't think we have the bottom lower third for yet, but you should check it out. I think it's @TruthWanted on Twitter, unless the crew will correct me wrong here. But yeah, you should follow that account for future updates on the show in specific if you don't want to see my Twitter shit post. But if you do want to see my Twitter shit post, you should follow me on Twitter @ObjectivelyDan as well. But if you want to support the show, like I said, a couple different ways to do that. Of course, patreon.com is one of the ways to do it. Patreon.com/truthwanted. We also have a merch store, which you should check out. It's bit.ly/AEN merch. That's bit.ly/AEN merch. You're probably not going to type it in for me telling you. You're probably going to click on it in the description like a normal human being. But hey, I want to give options to everybody. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is become a YouTube member. If you like watching this show live, you may notice that some people got some cool little emojis and stuff. And a way to do that is becoming a member on the channel just by starting at 99 cents a month. That's not a big commitment. Come on, guys, come be a member. It's really cool. And of course, I have to give a special shout out to the wonderful, fantastic, amazing, awesome crew that helps make this show happen every single week. Look at that crew. There's a Pikachu in here. That's crazy. I did not realize Pikachu from the Pokemon series was in fact a crew member, but it looks like he is.
How sad were you to realize that Pikachu, when you're actually playing Pokemon, is not that great of a character, not that great of a Pokemon?
That is a hot take that I am not willing to debate with you on this particular platform. But we can talk about that later. Another way to get involved with the community is, of course, the Truth Wanted Facebook group. I cannot forget of that awesome Facebook group. You guys are really cool that post on there and comment stuff. I look at that as well. It's pretty cool. Check that out. Links for that are going to be in the description. And yeah, that's about all the stuff we have time for today. Hey, look, it's Pico, guys. Pico's been on camera in a little while there.
Oh, you can also catch me on the nonprofits every once in a while too.
Oh yeah, you were just on nonprofits.
Yep,
yesterday. So you guys should check that out. And of course, I'm going to be on Atheist Experience on Sunday. So you guys should check that out. I'm going to be hosting with Matt Dillahunty. It's going to be cool. Hopefully more people are going to watch Truth Wanted because people seem to like it. So any last words before we peace out for tonight?
You know what, guys, have a good week. There's a lot in this world that's trying to drag you down. Just be excellent to each other. Just, be good.
I like that. Be excellent to each other. Remember, folks, to always keep wanting the truth, and I'll see you next time. Later.